Have you ever heard the story of a woman who single-handedly defeated a mighty enemy commander, not with a sword or an army, but with nothing more than a tent peg and a hammer? This is the dramatic and surprising story of Jael and Sisera, a story of courage, opportunity, and how God can use the most unexpected people to bring victory. Israel was in trouble again. After turning away from God, they were oppressed by a powerful enemy, King Jael of Canaan. His military commander, Sisera, was feared across the land because he commanded 900 iron chariots, the tanks of the ancient world. To the Israelites, poor, scattered, and weary, these chariots seemed unstoppable. But God raised up a leader, Deborah, a prophetess and judge. She called on a man named Barak to lead Israel's army. Together, they marched into battle against Sisera, and on the battlefield, God stepped in. Sisera's iron chariots, so powerful in normal conditions, became useless when a sudden flood muddied the ground. Israel gained the upper hand, and Sisera's army collapsed in chaos. Sisera, the feared commander, abandoned his chariot and fled on foot. Desperate and exhausted, Sisera ran until he came across a quiet encampment. It belonged to Heber the Kenite, a man whose clan was on friendly terms with King Jabin. There, Sisera found Jael, Heber's wife. She greeted him warmly. "Come in, my lord. Don't be afraid," she said. Sisera entered her tent, relieved. He asked for water, but Jael gave him milk instead, likely warm and comforting. She covered him with a blanket. To Sisera, it must have felt like safety. The chase was over, but in reality, he had just stepped into the hands of the person who would end his life. Sisera, worn out from battle, gave Jael instructions. "Stand at the entrance. If anyone comes, tell them no one is here." Then, overcome with exhaustion, he lay down and fell into a deep sleep. Now the spotlight shifts to Jael. She was not a soldier. She was not an Israelite warrior. She was simply a woman living in a tent on the edges of the conflict. And yet, in this moment, she faced a decision. Would she protect the enemy commander? Or would she act boldly to stop him once and for all? Jael made her choice. Quietly, she reached for the tools of her household life, a hammer and a tent peg. With steady hands, she positioned the peg at Sisera's temple. Then, with one powerful strike, she drove it straight through his skull and into the ground. The feared commander of Canaan was dead, defeated not by an army, not by a sword, but by the courage of a woman armed with everyday tools. Soon after, Barak, the Israelite general, came chasing after Sisera. Jael stepped outside to meet him and said, "Come, I will show you the man you are looking for." When Barak entered the tent, he saw Sisera lying dead with the tent peg still in his temple. The prophecy of Deborah had been fulfilled. She had said earlier that the honor of defeating Sisera would not go to Barak, but to a woman, and that woman was Jael. The story of Jael is shocking, even unsettling, but it's also a powerful reminder of how God works in unexpected ways. Jael was not a warrior. She was not part of the battle plan. And yet, in a single decisive moment, she changed the course of history. She reminds us that courage can come from the most unlikely people, and that God can use ordinary tools and ordinary lives to accomplish extraordinary purposes. The book of Judges ends this account by saying, "So on that day, God subdued Jabin king of Canaan before the Israelites. And the victory began, not with a sword or a chariot, but with the faith and bravery of a woman in a tent."